be its master. Man was born Homo Magister, born to rule the earth that had been made for him. He was born with a box of keys in one hand and a key to the box in the other. The box held all the keys to civilization. The key that opened the box was agriculture. In other words, so far as Homo Magister knew, man was born an agriculturalist and a civilization builder. These things were as much innate to him as chirping is to a cricket. The biological community that God had stocked the earth with was man's food preserve, to be used as suited him. It had no other reason for being there except to support man's life. If man wanted more cattle in his food preserve, he could breed more cattle. If he wanted the wolves out of his food preserve, he could kill them off. The biological community of the world had been given to man to use as he would. He wasn't a part of that community, not in any sense. He was the ruler of that community. He had been born that way. There wasn't any evidence for this story, of course. People didn't think in terms of evidence in those days. It was simply obvious, self-evident almost. It was obvious that civilization was only a few thousand years old. So obviously, man was only a few thousand years old. Obviously, then, he had been born a civilization builder. What else could he have been born? If you had suggested to Homo Magister then that man had been born a homeless hunter-gatherer, and that this homeless hunter-gatherer had lived through 3 million years without evidencing any inclination toward civilization, he would have laughed at you. He knew that there were such creatures, of course, in Africa and the New World, and he knew what had happened to them to make them that way. They had degenerated from the natural state. They had lost the key that opens the box of keys. They had lost the agricultural arts. They were subhuman, because to be human is to be Homo Magister. They lived like animals. They were a part of that biological community that had been given to man as his food preserve. Therefore, man could do anything he pleased with them. He could hitch them to the plow like oxen, or kill them off like wolves. By virtue of this story, man's place in the universe was secure, even if he wasn't physically at its center. That wasn't important. He was the end product of civilization, the creature for whom all the rest was made. Having made man, God stopped. Why wouldn't he stop? There was nothing more to make. It was a wonderful story, an inspiring story. But then, of course, along came Darwin. Homo Magister detested Darwin 1,000 times more than he had detested Copernicus. He would have burned him at the stake if that hadn't gone out of style. Darwin shattered Homo Magister's story of his birth. According to Darwin, man hadn't been born apart from and above the rest of the biological community. He had been born right in it. Not its ruler, its product. Not a master, a subject. Subject to the same biological processes that control the lives of flukeworms and bats and moles. He had not been shaped by the hand of God. He had been shaped by the mindless forces of natural selection. He wasn't the son of God. He was the son of apes. He hadn't been born an agriculturalist and a civilization builder, tall and handsome and brainy. He'd been born a squat, stupid savage. And he'd lived like a savage for hundreds of thousands of years, maybe millions of years. He'd had to pull himself out of the slime. God had created man in the slime.